Welcome to the MELAW20 MELP50 Anniversary Conference. My name is Sara Seck, and since July 2023, I've had the honor of serving as the director of the Marine and Environmental Law Institute here at the Schulich School of Law. And we welcome you to our anniversary conference, Marine and Environmental Law, Retrospect, and Prospects. I'm delighted that so many of you were able to join us today, whether in person or online. And I'd especially like to warmly welcome our international visitors who've traveled so far to be here today, as well as our international visitors who haven't traveled so far but are joining us at what is probably a very uncomfortable time zone, wherever they may be. We're very grateful to you for being with us today. As the program title suggests, our aim over the next 2 days is to reflect on the history, the present, as well as the future of MELAW and MELP. And it's appropriate for us to begin by acknowledging the relationships that are central to the land upon which we meet. Dalhousie University operates in the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Passamaquoddy peoples. These sovereign nations hold inherent rights as the original peoples of these lands, and we each carry collective obligations under the Peace and Friendship Treaties. Section 35 of the Canadian Constitution Act, 1982, recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights in Canada, and here we are all treaty people. Indigenous rights to self-determination are of importance in international legal instruments such as the 2007 UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, which has supported the resurgence of Indigenous laws. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we will have the opportunity to learn more about Mi'kmaq law, language, and art, as well as some version of this in our first speaker, Sherry Pictou, after we are completing this introductory part. Another important relationship recognized by the Dalhousie community flows from the history of the slave trade, with which this university and many others are intertwined. And it is perhaps particularly appropriate for a conference that reflects in part on the history of maritime law and the law of the sea, to also acknowledge the implications of passage of peoples of African descent by ship, including those who landed here. And so we recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. While we have no specific papers on the program that draw attention to the many environmental concerns confronting African Nova Scotian communities, overcoming the challenges of environmental racism will most certainly feature in the reflections of diverse presenters, including, as will be seen, those who view international law through the lens of TWAIL, or Third World Approaches to International Law. This conference would not have been possible without the work of many, and I would like to give a special thanks to longtime MELAW assistant Laurie McDougall, over there in the corner, a font of knowledge and energy, who has worked tirelessly to support this event. Thank you, Laurie. And I would also like to give a special thanks to Devdatta Mukherjee, who is a PhD candidate here and our supporting MELAW assistant. And I thank Devdatta for her commitment to both the substantive evolution of this program and the logistical support. So thank you, Devdatta. The Marine and Environmental Law Institute operates as a center within the Schulich School of Law, and we are very appreciative of the ongoing support that the law school has provided. We're also immensely grateful for the funding support for this event that we've received from the law school, as well as Dalhousie University's Next Wave funds, and our local sponsors, McGuinness Cooper, Stuart McKelvey, the Eastern Admiralty Law Association, and Metcalf and Company. And with that preliminary introduction, I'd like to turn things over to our Dean, Sara Harding. Thank you, Sara, for joining us.
Thank you, Sara, and it's really a pleasure, a delight to be here. My special delight to be able to sort of welcome all of you. For those who are alumni attending here either in person or remotely, a special welcome back into the Weldon building. And a truly special greeting of return to Elizabeth Marema, Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environment Program, who will be our keynote speaker much later today. Given the great milestones, or the milestone we are celebrating through this conference, really milestones too, through this conference, I'd just like to say a few quick words about the history of maritime and environmental law here at the Schulich School of Law. As everyone here probably knows, the Marine and Environmental Law program began as a faculty vote in 1974 to recognize this unique area of law as an area of special interest. This was the earliest of such special interests at Dalhousie Law School, and as such came only a few short years after the creation of another one of a kind in Canadian law schools, Dalhousie Legal Aid Services. It's interesting and inspiring to think of the combined growth of these two areas, reflective of a burst of new socially minded and innovative legal thinking. In both cases, the Dalhousie Law School was breaking new ground. Indeed, MELP was formed only a few short years after the creation of the new Federal Department of the Environment in 1971. While maritime law is ancient in its origins and has deeper legislative roots in Canada, Canada was just the second country in the world to create a division dedicated to environmental regulations and concerns. So we here at Schulich, back then Dal Law, were on the cutting edge of change. MELP and later MELAW evolved and grew in myriad ways. MELP generated a growth in curricular development as new courses were established, eventually leading to the creation of a certificate program in the early 1980s. It reached out to establish important partnerships, which then became the foundation for path-breaking grants. Out of those grants came not only path-breaking research, but new organizations, such as the Oceans Institute of Canada, the Marine Affairs Program here at Dalhousie, and East Coast Environmental Law. In short, the maritime and environmental law focus here at the law school has been a wellspring of research, teaching, and institution building, creating an entire generation of lawyers, academics, and activists at both the domestic and international level in both environmental and maritime law. Over the next 2 days of this conference, we will hear from many of those who graduated from MELP and from those who have been central to its creation and stability. It's exciting to look back at this rich and impressive history. So congratulations to Sara, and Lori for pulling together such a marvelous agenda, and enjoy the day. 2 days. Enjoy the 2 days. Thank you. Oh, and now Sara. You can only have one name if you're going to be part of MELP and MELAW these days.
And the dean, although she hasn't.
Hi, everyone. Indeed, I am the third Sara to be speaking to you this morning. My name's Sara Ross, and I'm the director of the MELP program and also associate director of MELAW. So I'm very delighted to be here with you all. And in particular, delighted because when I arrived here at Schulich in 2021, I found a really great academic home with MELAW, and so it's nice to be here commemorating the 20 years, and I'm particularly very excited to be commemorating the 50 years of MELP. And so I'm not going to say too much so we can dig into our great program that's been organized, but our certificates continue to be popular. We've added more courses recently, so continuing to see how the certificates are evolving to meet new needs and changing context of environmental law and maritime law. So, we still have some students who manage to complete both certificates, and that's always fantastic to see. What else? So, more than anything, I'm looking forward to everyone's presentations and talking to more of you over today. I unfortunately won't be here tomorrow, but and I'd also like to echo the thanks that Sara Seck shared earlier. And I'd also like to acknowledge all of the incredible work and hours, countless hours that Sara Seck has poured into this program, all the logistics. So it would be remiss not to thank you for all of this amazing work. So, and with that, I will turn you back over to Sara.
So, thank you, Sarah and Sarah, very much for your remarks.
I feel like we're the Monty Python.
Yes. Before we move on, I actually would like to share, if I can make sure I do this correctly, share. We have, one of the things that we have done is to put together a short PowerPoint slide which has come together after reaching out to some people who have played an important part at different times in the history or relationships with our program. And so the slides show includes a couple of embedded videos, which are very short but lovely, and also just some other images. So I'm going to do that, hopefully. Here we go. Okay. Now, as Dean Sara noted, the history of the MELP program began in the spring of 1974, and every year we have what we call the Douglas M. Johnston Lecture, and Douglas M. Johnston was here as a professor and was the one who has the described on our website as the newly recruited coordinator of the program. And so we always honor Douglas M. Johnston for his role. Now it also says on the website that this program offered a range of new courses in new fields, and then it lists some of the full and part-time faculty who were involved in this in the early days. And I will say that whoever I reached out to when I was talking about organizing this event said, you must talk to Edgar Gold. You absolutely must talk to Edgar Gold. And I'm delighted to actually see Edgar Gold on this call. But in fact, Edgar very kindly shared with us a video, which I'm going to play. And this video will play well here, but I thought it was actually quite funny. Edgar is based in Australia, and whenever I play this video on my computer, Edgar goes upside down. So I don't know why that is, but apparently that's not going to happen right now. So Edgar, here.
Good morning. This is Edgar Gold calling you from Brisbane, Australia. I'm very sorry I can't be there with you. I would have liked to have been, but the tyranny of distance, I think, really prevents it a bit. I'd like to wish you well at this important anniversary because I happen to be one of the very old guys who, way back over 50 years ago, was involved in getting all this work underway. In fact, there are now at least 3 or 4 generations of ocean specialists who've gone through the system. So I can call myself really not just a grandfather, but probably a great-grandfather. And some of the people in the room may even remember me. Much has been achieved, and there have been ups and downs over the years. And I think probably at this particular stage it's a bit of a difficult period with very thin government funding and even thinner university funding. However, that's never stopped us before, so you should not hesitate to go out into the wider community and continue to keep up the good work that the ocean is important, even in a country with such little ocean consciousness, such as Canada. We have to work on this. there's still a number of subjects which have been really on the agenda all the time, but there's much new work happening in the oceans, new technology, interesting shipping now, autonomous shipping, nuclear-powered ships, a great problem in the world's fisheries, both regionally, nationally, and internationally. Deep sea mining, continuous approaches in the Arctic areas, and the many coastal difficulties which exist all over the world. So I don't think we can really, after 50 years, sit back and say, well, this is wonderful, we've done it all, because to some extent, it really is only a start. I wish you well. You have a big responsibility. You're the young generation now. And I think Dalhousie should remain at the very center of these ocean studies. That's how we started. That's what we established. That is what is still there. And you now have to make sure that it remains that way. Some of us are now getting very old, very long in the tooth. We have to let go. We have let go quite some time ago. So all the very best. And I wish you a wonderful, interesting conference with a very interesting agenda, and all the very best. I hope I'm around long enough to hear some of the further progress. All the very best to you all. Goodbye from Australia.
So unfortunately, there was apparently a problem with the audio on the Zoom. I'm not sure. So the plan for the day is for us actually to play this video a second time later this afternoon. Am I right that people can hear now? Yes? On Zoom? Okay. So I think I'm going to continue with this video because everybody in the room here has heard, continue with the slideshow because everyone in the room here has heard it. But for those online, you will get to hear Edgar speaking this afternoon if you happen to stick around at the end of the day because we'll be playing this again. But thank you, Edgar, for those remarks which were warmly welcomed here in the room. And I'll note in this photo, actually, that our current president, Kim Brooks, who was dean of the law school at a particular time, is featured in the photo there with Edgar holding up a book. And a copy of that book is over there on the table, which was a book put together in honor of his work a number of years ago. So, oops. Okay, so I'm going to continue. I also actually wish I could move this from the top, but I'm not quite sure how to. Hang on. I'm not sure if I can move that, but okay. We'll leave it for the moment. All right. The second person that we wanted to celebrate in our introduction is Moira McConnell. Now, Moira was the first director of the Marine and Environmental Law Institute. Moira is also online, I understand. And Moira did not record a video for us, but did share some remarks, which I'm just going to read from her. So, she is there, but Moira, I'm assuming, Moira, you'd prefer I read these? Yes. Okay. So Moira says, I'm sorry I'm unable to join you in person for this celebration of MELP and MELAW at Dalhousie University. Just over 50 years for the program and 20 years for the Institute. I had the privilege of being the first director when the Institute was established in 2004, and also on occasion before and after that as a director of MELP. I was a law student between 1982 and 1984 at what was then Dalhousie Law School. I confess I did not go to Dalhousie for MELP, as this was a time before the internet. I simply thought I could be a lawyer. In retrospect, I think I was recruited to the program through a course in Admiralty Law by Professor Edgar Gold and by visiting Professor Donat Ferrand, who was known for his early Arctic and Law of the Sea scholarship. These topics, and later the interaction with environmental law, fascinated me for the rest of my career. The UN Law of the Sea Convention was only adopted in 1982, so it was all very new. I mention this personal information only to acknowledge the major influence this program and the impressive scholars that taught in these areas had on my career and life. Although I retired from teaching in 2015, I continue to publish and work with academic publications in all these fields alongside my colleagues, many of whom also benefited from this program and work with the Institute. As a retired faculty member and an honorary fellow of the Institute, I remain involved as academic editor of the acclaimed Ocean Yearbook. At this conference, you will hear from many who had similar experiences, including the keynote speaker, Elizabeth Morema. She was my first Master of Law graduate student supervision experience when I started teaching at Dalhousie in late 1989, where I was a Law of the Sea scholar. Despite my likely inadequate supervision, she has gone on to make a remarkable contribution in the United Nations, moving easily to the wider environmental and biodiversity law field, and now the global United Nations system, as have many others, either as teachers or lawyers or international actors in the fields of marine and environmental law. And the legacy of this program and institute through its graduates and research is truly remarkable. I'd like to briefly comment on an aspect that may be missed, and this is the less recorded contributions that Maura found in looking through her files. Some remain and some have ended. In Nova Scotia, I recall the establishment of the East Coast Environmental Law Association and its predecessors first in the early 1990s through the efforts of then faculty member and later former MP Linda Duncan. There was also the Association for Professional Environmental Auditors that Brian Fleming and I worked to establish in the early 1990s. And of course, the MELP faculty were behind the creation of the Ocean Institute of Canada, as well as the development of the Marine Affairs program. Both the MELAW and MELP have continued to grow and change as the understanding of the relationship between environment and oceans and humans has evolved, and this is to be celebrated. I realize it's now something of a cliche, but these fields are part of the living tree of law. The fields of marine and environmental law are much wider now than when MELP began, and include topics such as human rights at sea, labor standards, the rights of Indigenous peoples, and many other issues. And our faculty and graduate students are actively engaged, and we celebrate this. So for Maura, my congratulations to the Institute, the program, the faculty, and the numerous MELP alumni on this anniversary. And thank you, Maura.
Hello, my name is Meinhard Dwell. I would like to tell you a bit about my connections to the Marine and Environmental Law program, also called MELP. Long before I joined the MELP faculty in 2003, I was a student here in the 1980s. In fact, it was the MELP program that drew me to Dalhousie and to the law school. While a student, I took as many marine and environmental law courses as I could. I had my first research position at the International Institute for Transportation and Ocean Policy Studies and the Oceans Institute of Canada, both of which were closely connected to MELP. After graduating, I went on to practice law and to further studies before returning to Dalhousie as a PhD student in 2001 and as a faculty member in 2003. In 2000, I had the opportunity to join the Canadian delegation to the United Nations negotiations as a non-governmental member. I followed the negotiations in this capacity until 2006. That year, the Marine Environmental Law Institute obtained official observer status in the negotiations, and I've since been following the climate negotiations in that capacity. It seemed clear to me from the start that climate change would not be solved with a simple technical fix. I recall Professor Douglas Johnson, a longtime MELP faculty member and a member of my PhD committee, predicting back in 2002 that climate change will be too complex a problem for humanity to solve. So far, unfortunately, he has been proven right. But solutions involve a wide range of technologies applied in different combinations, in different jurisdictions, in combination with behavioral and structural changes to human societies.
Thank you. And so Meinhard was, I think I had said a moment ago that Linda Duncan at an earlier time had made moves to establish an environmental NGO here, and Meinhard took that and moved it forward, and now we have the wonderful East Coast Environmental Law Association, which works together with our MELP students, and we welcome Lisa, who's with us here today. And that program and others have graduated some wonderful students, and so one of them is David Wright, who many people in this room know well.
Hi, everybody. My name's David Wright.
Hi, everybody. My name's David Wright. I'm an associate professor at University of Calgary Faculty of Law and a MELP graduate from 2007. I sure wish I was there with you for this fantastic event. Instead, I'm here, though, on the banks of the mighty Yukon River in Whitehorse in the traditional territory of the Kwamlin Dun, teaching the Modern Treaties in the Law course up here again this year. It's a frosty morning here, and the bears are waking up, but I haven't seen any around, and hopefully this won't be my last ever video. In thinking about this event, first of all, I was just so excited that you're all taking the time to slow down and take time to take stock. I know you're going to have a great few days, or perhaps you've had a great few days already. In reflecting on it, I found myself thinking about past, present, and future. And looking back, it's just incredible the amount of high-quality work, publications, commentary, and so on that the Institute has generated over the last 20 years, and that the people of the MELP program have been engaged in the past 50 years. And then turning to the present, I know I'm not alone in really thinking and reflecting on the life and work of Meinhard Doel almost daily. And I know so many of us continue to work hard to carry on his legacy and carry on his important work. And I know if Meinhard was there, he'd have at least two mindsets going on. One would be reflecting on the wonderful Oilers playoff success so far in ice hockey. But the other would be not dwelling on or focusing on his own accomplishments and so on, but instead looking ahead at what needs to be done. And looking ahead when it comes to the Institute and MELP, it's clear that we're in precarious times, and that institutions that can generate credible, trustworthy, evidence-based commentary to inform public discourse are more important than ever during these times when democracy is under attack and we've got disinformation swirling around everywhere you look and everywhere you read. And so the Institute is no doubt more important than ever, and this event is surely going to take note of that, mark the occasion, and perhaps even chart a course for the decades to come, and hopefully it is decades to come. What a special little corner of Dalhousie with special people, and including all of you at this event. So I'm so sorry to miss it, but I'm there in spirit. And I thought I'd also just add, for those of you who are going to the Wooden Monkey over in Dartmouth for dinner, know that a few years ago some of us went there for dinner at a conference, and in the elevator in the ferry terminal we bumped into local rock star Joel Plaskin, and he actually helped us find the Wooden Monkey. So if you're lost, look for a tall, skinny man who sings great folk songs, and if you don't see him, at least look up his music, and maybe that could be some of the anthems for the event. So take care, everybody. Have a great event, and warm wishes from a place that's kitty corner to you all in this vast country we call Canada. Bye for now.
And I should note, I was with Dave in the elevator going up to the Wooden Monkey at the time, but that's another story. Another person and piece of the Marine Environmental Law Institute that is celebrated in the next two slides is the connection to the International Oceans Institute in Malta. The Ocean Yearbook is a key publication that we co-edit here, and Scott Coffin-Smout has shared some reflections on this. Many people associated with the Ocean Yearbook and with IOI Canada have been particularly inspired by the legacy of Elizabeth Borghese, and there's a photo of her here. And I note this theme continues in this slide, which is a congratulations from IOI Canada, with which we have a close relationship here at Dalhousie. This slide was put together by IOI Canada. David, you're featuring large in the, at the bottom of the slide. And so we're pleased and delighted that IOI Canada continues to be a close partner of ours. And Mike Butler will, I believe, be joining us later, but is not here yet. And our last slide